The drama on the Matthew Pulpit Show. Witness the impact of the truth. Miss Ty Constellation is here to prove Pythium is not the father. But Pythium has a history of infecting other plants. Is it true? Is it false? Only here on the Matthew Pulpit Show.
Everyone, I want you to give a warm welcome to our very special guest, Miss Ty Constellation. Now, we have Miss Ty Constellation on our show for a very special reason. Miss Ty, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
มีข่าวลือว่าฉันแพร่เชื้อไปสู่ลูกๆทุกคนไม่จริงไม่มีภัยเทียมอยู่ในนั้น
Yeah, that's a very strange rumor that the very first Ty Constellation had a bout of Pythium, and then they tissue cultured it, and now every single child has Pythium just squirming around inside of it, waiting to strike. Speaking of Pythium, we have another very special guest for this show. Let's welcome Pythium out on stage. Now, Mr. Pythium is a pretty dangerous guy, even though he looks pretty cute sitting there on that couch. Mr. Pythium is responsible for the death of many plants, turf, seedlings, crops, everywhere around the world. And in fact, Pythium is pretty much everywhere around the world. It's in your plant collections, it's outside, it's probably somewhere lurking in your home. But we're here to find out if it's lurking inside Miss Ty Constellation's babies themselves. Now, Mr. Pythium, do you have anything to say for yourself? Okay, well, that was something. Now, we did bring a few other guests to this show, but they are backstage. Right now, we have 8 of Miss Ty Constellation's tissue-cultured babies. Don't they look very cute sitting back there? They're also really excited to hear the results to find out whether or not they are infected. Now, there is a sad part to this whole story. We had to sacrifice 2 of Miss Ty Constellation's babies in order to have them tested, so they are no longer with us anymore. All because of really weird rumors. The 8 that we do have here with us have been deflasked, and they've been around for a few months now, so they've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations, and I have put them through a lot. That's 8 out of 8 that were successfully deflasked and are alive with us today. Now, on the Matthew Pulpit Show, we don't rely on screenshots of scientific journals or vaguely related ones as well. We use hard evidence. So, like I said before, we had sent 2 of Miss Ty Constellation's babies off to a lab to be tested. And I think we're at that point now where we should reveal these results and finally put these rumors to rest. All right, now that we're back from our sponsor break, Miss Ty Constellation, do you have any other final words for us?
ฉันแค่อยากได้ยินผลลัพธ์เพื่อให้ผู้คนได้เห็นความจริง
Well, the results are in, so let's take a look. Now, as for Miss Ty Constellation's 2 babies that were sacrificed in the lab, Mr. Pythium, you are not the father. Well, you heard it here first on the Matthew Pulpit Show, where we find the truth and solve the big, important issues. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Alright, some of you are probably very confused about what you just had witnessed here, and some of you are very well aware. So, we got a lot of things to cover, like what that was about. We got to talk about importing plants, plant disease testing, deflasking tissue culture plants. There is a lot that I'm going to go over, and a lot of it is super interesting and really cool revelational things that I learned. Again, this was probably the most, well, let's just start with what this was. This is a part of the Pythium saga, and I'm calling it Pythium now because that's the proper pronunciation, I guess. I was calling it Pythium. So there's been this entire saga. It's been like a back and forth thing about Ty constellations and them basically being infected with Pythium. Like every plant has Pythium in it, and that's why people are having such poor success with the Ty constellation, right? Everyone who deflasks them is losing 10 to 30% for some reason. Well, not everyone. I've seen people with 100% success rates. But anyway, some people are losing theirs, and so the idea is that the mother plant, the very first Ty constellation, had a bout of Pythium, right? So it's infected. And then ever since the tissue culture, all its children were infected. So that was something that I was seeing across the Facebook groups on YouTube, and I called it out as just crazy. I thought it was dumb. It didn't make any sense. If you know about tissue culture and just anything about a lot of these diseases, it just doesn't make any sense. So there was that topic. There was also the whole plants are never getting cheaper thing. I think the Thai constellation has come down to like $40 now, and it's in like Hy-Vee grocery stores in my state. So they got a lot cheaper since this first saga even begun. So I think that's been debunked. I don't know what else to say about that, but there's also this idea that all the new Thai cons are somehow like inferior to the previous Thai cons. I can't prove anything about that because I don't have any previous Thai cons, nor is there really an easy way for me to like set up an experiment and empirically test it unless I literally, if someone sends me the first version Thai constellation, I will culture Pythium and I'll put it on the first generation's roots and my like 30th generation. We'll see who fares better. That could be a cool experiment, but I don't have an original Thai constellation. So anyways, I can't really debunk that, but I did manage to deflask 8 of my, well, I only had 8 to deflask, so I sent 2 to a lab, but we'll get to that. I ordered 10 total. I kept 8. I deflasked 8. All 8 are living, so none of them died to Pythium or any of these mysterious diseases. So I put them through literally hell and back, and I will show you all of that towards the end of this video. I've got a whole series. It's like one of my typical like overtime videos, so it's really cool. Really awesome things I discovered with these whole tissue culture things. Very fun. So look forward to that. But so that's kind of the like pretense to this, me kind of setting everything up. So that big reveal, that was just basically debunking this idea that they have Pythium inside of them. And so what I did is I ordered the 10 tissue culture Thai cons from Growth Revolution, which is an amazing company, and we'll get to that in a second. But let's get to the lab results first. So I ordered these 10 plants. I took 2 of them. I did not deflask them. I left them in the flask, and I sent them to a lab. So when I contacted the lab, I explained to them that there's a lot of people in the community that think that Thai constellations are just like harboring a disease, and that's why they die so easily. And when I explained it was people believe it's Pythium. At first, he was like, hey, let's like not spend the money on the testing because that's literally not how Pythium works. If it's in the, well, I'll put the emails up here so you can see his words exactly before I like chop them up too much. But what he basically said was, if the plant has Pythium inside of it, it's going to quickly take over the culture and ruin the tissue culture, right? In a matter of like days or even like a week or two, which most tissue culture exists in their little flask for many weeks. So again, he basically said that's just not how it works, and you're wasting your money if you're going to make a test on this whole like premise. But I knew no one is going to like accept that as an answer. So I said, let's just test it anyways. It's only $30 a plant, which is really awesome. And so we had them tested, and the results came back negative. There's no Pythium in those 2 Thai constellation plants. Now, there could be some luck where I got the only 2 tissue cultured Thai cons ever to not have Pythium. Who knows? I can't prove much more than the fact that at least 2 do not have it, so that's the best I can do. I don't have an infinite wallet here. I did purchase the plants myself. I did pay for the testing myself, so I can only do so much. But anyways, it was very cool to see those results, and just a lot of fun just getting to this point. And now we can move on to more of the exciting things, because we just straight up debunked that like stupid myth. In my opinion, it was dumb. I knew it was dumb from the start. I tried to tell people it was dumb, but people told me I was emotional and unscientific. So to all the people who said I was unscientific, here's your like literal raw evidence. There's no opinions. They don't have Pythium. It's as simple as that. So anyways, let's move on to that. I want to talk about Growth Revolution, because this is really cool, and I did not know this until I ordered plants from overseas. I've only ever ordered plants through Equigenera, and they handle all the importing, so you never have to worry about it. So I always thought importing plants was just a phytosanitary certificate. I didn't know you needed an import permit, so I tried to place an order with Growth Revolution, and he's like, by the way, you can pretty much talk to the owner on Facebook. It's really awesome. It's like really cool. He's really helpful. But he's like, all right, I just need your import permit. And I was like, oh God, import permit. Like, I don't have an import permit. What is that, you know? And he just sends me this video. I'll make a dedicated video to how to set all this up. But basically, you can make an account in 5 minutes on this government website, and then you can generate an import permit in about 5 minutes. And then it takes another 5 minutes for that report to like be sent to your email. So a total of 15 minutes, I had an import permit. So I always thought this was like a very challenging thing that you had to like have a business for, do all these applications. But no, it's very simple. And the best part, getting an import permit from our government is free. I know that's hard to believe because like nothing's ever free with our government, but it was actually free to do this. It was so cool. So anyways, there's that awesome thing. Again, I'll have a whole dedicated video, but if you can't wait for mine, just Google it or YouTube it. There's a lot of guides out there, and it's really helpful. So you don't have to be so nervous about imports. It's really easy, actually, surprisingly easy. I think that covers the whole importing thing. Now, this is the next thing I want to tell you about. This entire video, this entire culmination of this saga is all thanks to one person. his name was Shane. He reached out to me on Instagram and he told me about this plant diagnostic network. So we have this entire network in the United States. Every state has all these labs, and I'll put the website link in the description. I'll show you some screenshots on the screen. But you can find these labs all over the place, and the testing is actually affordable. I thought this would be hundreds of dollars, and I was like dreading like trying to like actually test these plants. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm paying a lot of money just to tell people in the comment section that they're like weird, like, oh, unscientific thing is weird. But anyways, it was only $30 a plant, so that was awesome. So I did 2 plants. I could have done more, but again, my wallet's only so thick, which is not thick at all. So yeah, that was another revelational thing. So if you guys are having any problems with your plants, there's labs all around the US that you can contact. First, the cool thing is you can start with just pictures, right? I want to say it was like $20 for just like photo diagnostics. So they're all experts. I mean, these people deal with diseased plants all day, pest plants all day. This is their job. This is what they went to school for. They work in university labs, or even, I don't know if there's any commercial labs. I didn't look at all of them, but my point is these guys are truly experts. You know, I always see, and this is where I saw half this like Pythium stuff and all this other weird goofy stuff, is the Facebook groups. There's always people going like, what's wrong with my plant? You know, and they're asking questions. And then you get like 40 different answers that are all different. And it's like, you come back thinking you got like everything wrong with your plant when it could just be something so simple as too much light or just not enough water. But you can send a picture to these guys and they will do their best to identify what it is. If they are not confident in their identification, you can then bring your plant in or mail it in, whatever you prefer, and they'll do tests on it, and they'll include that original fee in with the like testing fee. So anywhere from probably like 20 to 50 bucks you'll pay. And in my case, I had the plants completely like obliterated because I was testing like the whole thing, you know, so there, I didn't get anything back, but you can have just a leaf tested, you know, you don't have to get your plant killed. My point is, this is a totally awesome system. It's available to civilians. You don't need any special license or anything. You can just contact them through email and kind of work out what you want. They're very like human in the fact that like it's not some automated system. You just can explain what you're looking to do, and they're like totally there to work with you. It was such an incredible experience, and I highly recommend it. If it wasn't for them, who knows if this video would ever be like produced. But that's that topic. So I think we kind of got through the whole plant saga, growth revolution, kind of what I did, the test results obviously negative, the testing network, and then I think the last thing that I kind of wanted to address is just like all the comments. Like, I could care less about the rebuttal because there's already like issues with it, but what drove me nuts is like the amount of people in the comments that were like, they're like, yeah, that was a really scientific rebuttal. And it's like it's literally just screenshots of scientific journals. Like, that is not science. Like, setting up an experiment, seeing what the results are, like, that is like science. That is some real science. Reading a journal or screenshotting a journal, that is not science. So that was so weird to me. And I think the most like egregious thing in this entire saga was like one of the like scientific evidence was this picture, this illustration that showed a virus inside the plant, right? It's literally a picture. It shows a virus highlighted, and that was used as evidence that like plants can harbor like viruses and diseases, you know, which is obvious. Like, everyone knows plants can have disease. That's how they die. But the best part about this image was it was literally from like an entire document outlining how to get rid of viruses from plants. There is, in the picture, it literally illustrates that, and it literally says, cut here, okay, where the meristem tissue is. Cut here, it says. And that was like the evidence literally was like kind of refuting everything that was being said about it. Like, yeah, there's viruses in the plants, but this is literally about removing viruses from plants, and this is what people do in tissue culture labs. They use meristem tissue because it's a great way to like remove viruses and other contaminants. So like the fact that no one looked into this whatsoever, and they just in the comments were like, wow, that is so scientific, was like just like, it was eye-opening to me. I was like, these people really don't care. They really have no idea. They are just like looking and believing. And so again, I will say this for the third time. I said this in both of my videos. Just go read the papers yourself. There's other problems with all the other evidence like that was like listed. It's crazy. The thing is, I read almost every single one that was presented prior to my very first video, and just the fact that no one took the time to read any of them was crazy. I don't get it. There was even people harassing me in my comments. There's one specific person, you know, was just going on about how I'm just so disrespectful to science and yada yada yada, and like he would I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, whatever, but they would just keep repeating things I literally said in my video. Like, they would put a whole long comment on it. It was like exactly what I said. I was like, dude, I literally said this in my video. Like, did you watch it? I don't think he ever did. But anyways, I found him like talking crap on Reddit. Okay. And then I finally was like, all right, dude, here's the test results, and then this is the best part. I'm like, this is very interesting, man. You're like a guy of science, like you'll enjoy this. I sent these plants off, I had them tested, and there's no Pythium in there. And then he's just like, you know what? I don't even care, man. I know people who say something different. So I was like, all right, well, I guess that's just how it is, So you can't really convince anyone anything, which is fine. But I hope that at least some of you enjoyed the fact that we can actually get some real results here. And that's the kind of my message to the commenters is like, just read the journals yourself. There's really not that many about Pythium. Take some time and do your own research. Don't just believe like what someone says, like set up an experiment. Another thing I always tell people, and I learned this really early on in my like YouTube career, I make these propagation videos and people come in the comments and they'll be like, this didn't work for me, what I saw in the video. So it's like, obviously there's a lot of other factors that can cause different things. So when people ask like what the best way to do anything is, I'm like, try 2 different methods at once, see which one works for you better. You might have different results than I do because who knows what other external factors can cause issues. So again, my final advice for any of this, like the science war is like, do some tests, like do some experiments. You can totally do it. And it's a super rewarding thing. It's so much fun to like try 2 different things and see what works better for you. It'll make you a better plant parent when you can kind of figure out what works instead of just like doing whatever you read. If you can try a few different things, you can like hone in on what works better for you. And again, these journals are not that hard to read. You'd be surprised what you would have actually deciphered from a lot of like the evidence that was used against me and how funny it actually is if you actually just read them instead of just seeing and like being like awestruck by it. So I don't know. It just that the comment section bothered me more than anything because there are people like, wow, how scientific, just because there was like some screenshots of a journal. And again, a lot of it was just very egregious in the way that it didn't support the evidence at all. So whatever, we can go past that. I can finally put this to rest. I've done the tests. There's no Pythium in here. I've had a guy, the lab tech, tell me that that's not how Pythium works. They're an actual scientific professional. So again, I think we can put this to bed. I took the scientific approach. So if those commenters don't agree, there's literally nothing I can do to change their mind at this point. I did as much as I possibly could. All right, so at this point, we've got past pretty much the entire setup, and now I actually want to show you my whole deflasking results because there was a lot of very interesting things that occurred during that, and I was like kind of shocked by what I saw, and I did a lot of interesting things, and I think you'll like that. So let's kind of switch over to just looking at footage of plants.
All right, so you've already been listening for 17 minutes, and I'm sure it's getting tiresome, so I will try and make this quick. I will do a longer video about this after this sometime where I'll go way more into detail and I'll show you a lot more footage of like kind of how I did things more specifically, because again, this isn't a how-to. I just want to give you an idea of what I've done. So like I said, I did order these from Growth Revolution and they came in a nice cooler. Everything was super well packed. They did a fantastic job. Like I said, highly recommended. You can actually speak with the person who works there. It's awesome. So anyways, I was on vacations. My in-laws were at my house for a couple months, so it was a lot of chaos, and sometime around in there, I wasn't able to really get to these plants right away, and so they sat around for like 15 days. Another important thing to know about tissue culture is like just temperature changes change the pressure like inside of the flask versus the outside and random damage, and it can totally suck in contaminants. So these all looked really good when I unboxed them. However, about 15 days later, some started to show contamination and others didn't. Again, they were so mishandled by our government, it's unreal. But I started to see these the contaminants, and it really freaked me out. I was like, oh God, like I just spent all this money and I didn't get to it soon enough and I ruined everything. But luckily there were some that weren't contaminated. So I was going to deflask them now because I was obviously running out of time. And this is another reason why I didn't ship it to the first lab that reached out to me, just because I was like, oh gosh, like too much time has gone by. They're getting contaminated. I got to send these off quick. But anyways, we'll get to that after this part. I'm just going to show you sort of what I did. I do my typical sphagnum moss, perlite, leca prop box. I use like an old card box for my wedding. Never throw anything out because I'm a pack rat, but it seemed to work pretty well. I did try and rinse off the roots with the gel and like the agar and stuff as best I could in like a thing of water. They did suggest that you buy like iodine or something, some stuff to sterilize it. I didn't do any of that, so definitely follow their stuff. This is not a guide. Let me be very clear. This is not a guide. This is just what I did with like the time I had. I found that I couldn't swoosh it off in this water, so I took it to the next level and just took it to my sink, put it on full blast, and just literally lambasted these plants. I mean, I hit them like so hard that roots were flying off, but I think the chlorinated water might have helped me with like not having iodine or something. I have no idea, but I really made sure to blow everything off these roots because that sugar stuff you'll see later causes quite an issue. This puts us about a month since I got this stuff in the mail, and that's when like the panic was really setting in because my 2 perfect ones, one started to show contamination. So I'm like, oh my goodness, like again, my like laziness like ruined everything. But I luckily found like there was a local one, so I drove to my city's capital, which is cool. Had a little date with my wife and my kid. It was fun. Had some nice food and stuff and dropped them off at the lab, and that's when they started the testing. So one was contaminated, and I did ask in the email if you could identify that. And if you did watch earlier, you will see that it was identified as some random fungus or whatever. But again, that day I did check on the current Tycons that I had deflasked a while ago. I think about 15 days had passed, and they were still looking pretty fine. I didn't see anything crazy going on. Some of the roots looked a little dark, but I saw a lot of white roots, so it didn't really make me panic. About another 10 days had passed, and that just kind of, I wanted to check on it. And like I said, I'm trying to document this whole process so you guys can see what's going on. So I pulled a lot of them out of there, and I could see a ton of white roots. So I was like, wow, these are really doing good, But as I like peeled away the sphagnum moss, I saw some super interesting stuff. Some of the original roots, where I think a lot of that sugar still built up, had some kind of fungus on there. I'm not really sure what it is. As far as I can understand, Pythium is like a white fungus, so I cannot like prove or deny what this is here on these roots, but it didn't seem to bother anything because the roots were white growing out of that, and it was almost like a crust or something. So it didn't have me really all that freaked out at all because, like I said, the plants look so good that I just thought it was just eating the sugars, which is what I'm thinking. But again, I have no idea. I did pull off some of the roots that I could like break free and left everything that was a little stronger. I want to say maybe 2 or 3 of the plants had that, maybe more. I really can't recall at this point, but I just broke some off and left some on. I didn't really do much about the like mold. I didn't wash it off or anything. At this point, we're looking at about 2 months that have passed now, and when I dig these out, you can see there are roots literally everywhere, and I have to pry these apart. They really remind me of just any propagation I've ever done. For whatever reason, sphagnum moss always works so well for me, so I was happy to see a lot of good growth. At this point, though, I really wanted to put this stuff to the test. I know a ton of people always recommend like all this super sterile environments, and they use like fungicide, bactericide, like every sort of side you could possibly use to make like this ultra sterile stuff. And they use like coco coir, which I've got a sneaking suspicion about coco coir, but that's a whole nother topic. But anyways, they got all this stuff, but I was like, you know what? Let's just try and kill these things because let's see what we can do. So I have just my recycled potting mix that I just throw everything in there. If I have a dead plant, its soil goes right in the bin. So I thought if anything's going to put a true test to how fragile Thai constellations are, it's going to be this dirt, because there's got to be just God knows what's in here. I'm sure there's Pythium in here. There's probably the Pythium that eats Pythium in here, which is a thing, believe it or not. I got probably bacteria. I know there's like spider mites, there's eggs, there's just literally everything in here. So I potted them all up because I was like, let's just see like how well they can survive. And so like this was something that I was really excited about because, again, everyone pretends that these are super fragile. I don't know if it's really that they're super fragile. I think it's just people haven't quite like figured out what they want and what they like. And we'll go more into that later because I do want to like put this to a further test by like trying to kill these with different ways so we can really get to the bottom of why people are losing them. At this point too, I wanted to further the chaos, and I had a bin, like a propagation bin that's just been running with a light on it, and everything died in there. I don't know what killed them. There was just like a dampening off. Maybe it was Pythium, maybe it was something else. I don't know. I don't really care, but I needed another bin. So I thought, let's leave some dead carcasses in here with the Thai constellations to really like, let's give them the worst chance possible. This was my true goal, is like, let's kill these guys. Let's see if we can kill them, because if we don't, that is some really compelling evidence. And so I just put them up under a light in that bin with the lid on, high humidity, no airflow, and we're going to see if we can kill these guys basically. Another month passed. I don't know how many times I've said that, but we're at about the 3-month mark basically. Sometime between what you saw earlier and this, I was like taking the lid off a little bit to see like what would happen and to try and like get them used to like regular air. And I did fry them under the lights a little bit, so they really got cooked at one point. So you can see the lower leaves are pretty much toast, but the base of the plants are absolutely perfect. So there's literally nothing going wrong with these plants besides like crispy leaves. And those are all the leaves from the like tissue culture flask, so they're already kind of compromised in a sense that they're a little bit weaker. But yeah, then I decided I'm just going to put them out in open air and just let them do their thing. All right, so that brings us to present day. I believe we're at about 4.5 months now. You can see they're all really healthy. Like I said, besides those burnt leaves, that was really the only big damage. But everybody's producing new leaves. I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but we got a new one here, and this one looks like it's going to be pretty nice. New one here. I believe this one came out recently, right here. Got a new leaf here. This one just sprouted. This one's a pretty prominent one that's pretty good. But my point is, they're all doing great.
I don't know what else to do to kill these things, so that's kind of where I want to take the next steps. So my big goal with this, again, this whole Thai constellation, I know a lot of people are having problems with it, so I don't want to minimize the fact that people aren't like very successful with this plant and they've gone through 2 or 3 different plants. So I want to figure out like what is the true cause, why are people losing these plants, because there's got to be something causing it. So if you guys have lost Thai constellations, please let me know in the comments. Tell me what you tried, kind of what happened, and maybe we can see a sort of pattern develop with everyone's comments on like why their plants died, and then I can try and put those to the test. Like I'm willing to kill these plants at this point if we can get to the bottom of like why people are losing these plants, so we can prevent people from losing these plants. I mean, I do like them. They are cute with their little eyeballs, but I think it's more beneficial to try and kill them and really get to like the bottom of things than to just kind of have them sit around. So please let me know like what didn't work for you so we can try it. I want to develop a few different tests to run on these. I have only 8, so we really got to be kind of selective in what tests we define. But again, I would love to keep going with like the whole Thai constellation thing and seeing what we can do to figure out what's wrong with them and why people are losing them, because it's very interesting to me and I like to figure these things out. So I hope you guys like this entire saga, the entire wrap up, the weird skit I did, all the information that's been unveiled, and I hope you're satisfied with the results. I think this has been super interesting. I've had a ton of fun with this. I almost wanted that to have Pythium inside. I think I might have said Pythium a few times, but I almost wanted these plants to actually have Pythium because I wanted to try the meristem technique to remove viruses and other contaminants, but that's not the case, so we can't do that. But either way, super cool stuff. I really hope you guys got a kick out of this. It was fun for me. I hope it was fun for you. And as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.